Okay, you guys are going to take some notes on Chapter 3, Section 3.1, which talks about parallel lines and transversals. Parallel lines we talked about it in Chapter 1, but we're going to dive into it a lot more specifically. We're going to look at angle relationships and do some problems with these. First thing that we already know are that parallel lines are coplanar lines. Remember, this means they're in the same plane that never intersect. And to know that lines are parallel, we have to look for certain things. The first thing we're going to look for is if they give us a statement to say that they are parallel. And they are going to put this notation in between two lines to show that they're parallel. So if I wanted to say that line AC and line BD are parallel, it would look like that. Now we can also look at a picture and tell that they're parallel based on a specific type of notation. If you look at these two blue lines, you can see we have a little arrow in the middle of them. That means those are parallel. They're going the same direction, they have the same slope, they're never going to intersect each other. So when we see arrows in the middle of the lines, that means that they're parallel to each other. Now when we have a line that intersects two or more lines, we call that line a transversal. So a transversal is a line that intersects two or more coplanar lines at two different points. Now in our picture, line EF is my line that's intersecting lines AC and lines BD. So my transversal is EF. That is the one that's doing the intersecting. When a transversal intersects parallel lines or any two or more lines, you create different angle relationships. In this picture, we have 8 different angles that are created with those 3 lines. We have interior angles, which are in between the 2 parallel lines, and we have exterior, which are on the outside of the parallel lines. So our interior angles are 1, 2, 3, and 4, and my exterior angles are 5, 6, 7, and 8. Now all of these angles are either acute or they're obtuse. And some of the angles are congruent, some of the angles are supplementary. So we're going to look at the different angle pair relationships and identify which ones are congruent, which ones are supplementary. So once again, all of the angles are either congruent or they are supplementary. So the first types of angle pair relationships we're going to look at are corresponding angles. Corresponding angles are in the same position on the parallel lines. So they have the same position. What I mean by that is they sit in the same spot. For example, 5 is above line K to the left of line M. So if I go above line L to the left of the transversal, that gets me to 3. If I look at 1, it's in the bottom and to the left, and so is 7 to the bottom and to the left. 6 is above K to the right. L is above L. 4 is above L to the right. And then finally, 2 is below K to the right of the transversal, and 8 is below L to the right of the transversal. Now, all of these angle pair relationships are going to be congruent to each other. So 5 is congruent to 3. Angle 6 is congruent to angle 4. Angle 1 is congruent to angle 7. And angle 2 is congruent to angle 8. If you notice, 5 is an obtuse angle, and it matches with 3, which is also an obtuse angle. 6 is acute, 4 is acute. So your obtuse angles are going to match up with your obtuse angles, and the acute with the acute. The next angle pair relationship that we're going to look at are going to be alternate interior angles. Okay, so alternate meaning they're on alternating sides of the transversal. They're going to be on different sides, and they're going to be on the interior of the parallel lines. So if I find the interior, that's going to be in this section. Those are all interior. But the ones that are on alternate sides are going to be on alternate sides inside. So they are always going to be congruent to each other. So angle 1 is congruent to angle 4, and 2 is going to end up being congruent to 3. And again, you can look at the acute and obtuse relationship. 1 is acute, 4 is acute. They are congruent to each other. 2 is obtuse, 3 is obtuse. They are congruent to each other. Now the next type of angle pair relationship is going to be similar to the one we just did, but instead of being on the interior, it will be on the exterior. And these are going to be called alternate exterior angles. So they are going to be on the exterior, that means either above or below the parallel lines. They're going to be on the opposite sides of the transversal, and again, the relationship between these are going to be congruent. So 5 is on the left side and above, so I'm going to go to 8, which is on the right side and below. So angle 5 is congruent to angle 8, and angle 6 is congruent to angle 7. So the next kind, every relationship pair we've looked at so far have been congruent to each other. These angle pairs that we're going to look at now are the only ones that are not congruent. They are supplementary. And these are going to be same side interior, or I should have put another line. We call these consecutive interior. So they're going to be on the same side of the transversal. They're going to be on the interior. So if I look at those, same side, interior. Those are going to be supplementary. So if you notice, 1 is acute and 3 is obtuse. When you have an acute and an obtuse angle with parallel lines, those are automatically going to be supplementary. So the measure of angle 1 plus the measure of angle 3 is going to equal 180 degrees. The measure of angle 2 plus the measure of angle 4 is also going to be 180 degrees. So tomorrow when you come into class, we're going to do some practice in class on some of these, identifying the angles, doing algebraic problems with the angles, and so on and so forth. I will see you tomorrow.